Let's start with a question. When you walk into a food production area and pick up your cleaning tools, what exactly are you fighting? The honest answer is, more than most people realize. In this module, we're going to get to know your enemies properly, the biological hazards, the chemical hazards, and the physical hazards that threaten food safety every single day. We're not just going to name them. We're going to understand how they behave, where they hide, and exactly how your work stops them. Because when you know your enemy, you clean with purpose, not just habit. We'll begin with biological hazards, and we call them the invisible enemy for a very good reason. You cannot see them. You can't smell them. You can't taste them on a surface that looks perfectly clean. Biological hazards are the microorganisms, the bacteria, the viruses, the parasites, and the molds that can make people seriously ill. Of all three categories of hazard, this is the one that causes the most harm in food facilities around the world. And it's the one that your cleaning and sanitation procedures are most directly designed to control. Let's put names to some of the most dangerous bacteria you will encounter. Salmonella is commonly found on raw poultry, eggs, and meat, and it spreads easily to other surfaces through cross-contamination. E. coli O157:H7 is a particularly nasty strain that lives in the intestines of cattle and can contaminate beef during slaughter. It's also found in unpasteurized milk. Campylobacter is one of the leading causes of bacterial diarrhea and is closely associated with raw poultry. And then there's Staphylococcus aureus, which lives on our own skin and in our noses, a reminder that personal hygiene is always part of the story. One pathogen deserves special attention: Listeria monocytogenes. What makes Listeria so dangerous is that it can grow at refrigeration temperatures below 5 degrees Celsius. Most bacteria slow right down in the cold. Listeria doesn't. It's commonly found in ready-to-eat foods like soft cheeses and deli meats. More importantly for us, it can establish itself in the drains, on floors, and in wet, cool corners of a processing environment, and from there it can recontaminate food contact surfaces. Controlling Listeria requires diligent, thorough cleaning in exactly the kinds of damp, cool spots that are easy to overlook. To control bacteria, we need to understand what they need to survive. There's a useful acronym for this: FATM. It stands for food, acidity, time, temperature, oxygen, and moisture. Bacteria need a nutrient source. They prefer a neutral pH. They need time to multiply. They thrive between 5 and 60 degrees Celsius. That's the temperature danger zone, and they need moisture to survive at all. A food production environment provides most of these conditions readily. Your job is to remove as many of them as possible. When you clean away food residue and dry surfaces thoroughly, you're directly attacking the FATM conditions that bacteria depend on. Here's something that catches many people off guard. Bacteria don't always float freely on a surface. Over time, especially on surfaces that stay wet and aren't cleaned properly, bacteria form something called a biofilm. Think of it as a fortress they build around themselves, a slimy protective layer made of sugars that shields the bacteria inside from disinfectants. A bacterium inside a mature biofilm can be up to 1,000 times more resistant to your sanitizer than the same bacterium floating freely on a surface. They're also dangerous because chunks of biofilm can break off and travel downstream into the food processing environment, releasing bacteria continuously. So how do we beat a biofilm? The answer is not more chemical, it's physical action. You have to scrub. Vigorous scrubbing with a brush or scrub pad is what breaks up that protective slime layer. Once you've done that, your detergent can lift the debris off the surface. And only then, once the surface is physically clean, Can your disinfectant reach and kill the bacteria underneath? This is the science behind why scrubbing is non-negotiable. It's not about effort for its own sake. It's about physically destroying a fortress before your chemicals can do their work. Skipping the scrub is like firing at a fortified wall without breaching it first. Viruses are a different kind of threat. They're far smaller than bacteria, and they can't reproduce on their own. They need a living host. But they can survive on surfaces for hours, sometimes days, and it only takes a tiny number to cause illness. The two main foodborne viruses we need to know are norovirus, the most common cause of foodborne illness outbreaks, and hepatitis A, which attacks the liver. Both are almost always transmitted the same way. An infected person who doesn't wash their hands properly after using the toilet can transfer the virus to surfaces, utensils, or food directly. Rigorous hand hygiene and staying home when you're sick are the most important controls we have against viral contamination. There's one more category of biological type hazard we need to understand: allergens. An allergen is a protein found in certain foods that triggers an immune response in sensitive individuals. For some people, even a tiny trace of the wrong food can cause a life-threatening reaction. The major allergens include peanuts, tree nuts, milk, eggs, soy, fish, shellfish, and wheat. They're treated with the same seriousness as microbial hazards in a food safety plan, and your role in controlling them is critical. The specific risk with allergens isn't contamination in the traditional sense, it's called cross-contact. That's when a trace of an allergenic food accidentally transfers to a product that's supposed to be allergen-free. Imagine using the same cloth to wipe down a surface where peanut butter was handled, and then using it on a surface where a peanut-free product is being made. That small invisible transfer could be enough to seriously harm someone with a peanut allergy. The control is strict segregation, completely separate, color-coded cleaning tools for allergen areas, and a very specific, validated cleaning process whenever you're switching from an allergen to a non-allergen production run. Now let's talk about chemical hazards, and here's what's important to understand right from the start. The chemicals you work with every day are both your most powerful tool and one of the most significant chemical hazards in the facility. Cleaning and sanitation chemicals are essential for killing pathogens. But if they're used at the wrong concentration, stored incorrectly, or not rinsed off properly, they can contaminate the very food they're designed to protect. As the person handling these chemicals every day, you carry a huge responsibility and a huge amount of control. Concentration is everything with cleaning chemicals. Too weak, and the chemical won't do its job. The surface will look clean, but the pathogens will survive, which is a biological hazard risk. Too strong, and the chemical itself becomes the hazard. It can leave a toxic residue on food contact surfaces, and can also damage equipment and harm you. Getting the concentration right means following the manufacturer's instructions and your company's SOP every single time. Your facility may use an automatic dispensing system, which takes the guesswork out of it. Where you're mixing manually, you may need to use test strips to verify the concentration before you use the solution. There is one rule in chemical handling that can never be broken: never mix different cleaning chemicals together. The consequences can be severe. Mixing a bleach-based product with an ammonia-based product creates chlorine gas, a toxic, potentially deadly gas that you must never inhale. The other risk is the opposite. Mixing two chemicals can cause them to neutralize each other completely, leaving you with a solution that does nothing. For example, mixing a quaternary ammonium disinfectant, we call these quats, with certain detergents can deactivate the quat entirely, meaning you're applying what you think is a disinfectant, but is actually just water. Always use chemicals as directed, separately, and never combine them. Every chemical in your facility has a safety data sheet, an SDS. This document from the manufacturer tells you everything you need to know about that chemical, what hazards it carries, what protective equipment you must wear, what to do if you're exposed, and how to store it safely. You need to know where your SDS binder is kept. Before you use any new chemical for the first time, you should read its SDS. It's not just good practice, it's part of working safely and professionally in a HACCP environment. Safe chemical handling doesn't stop when you put the container down. All cleaning chemicals must be stored in a designated locked area, always away from food contact surfaces, and packaging materials. The area should be well ventilated. Every container must stay in its original labeled packaging. If you transfer a chemical into a smaller container like a spray bottle, that bottle must be labeled with the chemical's name and hazard information. And never, ever, use a food container to store a chemical. That single mistake has caused some of the most preventable chemical contamination incidents in food facilities. After you've cleaned and disinfected a food contact surface, the last line of defense against chemical contamination is a thorough rinse with clean, potable water. This removes any chemical residue before the surface touches food again. The one exception is if you're using a no-rinse sanitizer, a product specifically formulated to be left on the surface at the concentration it's applied. The critical point is this: you must know for every chemical you use, whether it requires a rinse or not. That information is in your SOP. Rinsing when you don't need to isn't a disaster. Not rinsing when you do need to is a serious chemical contamination failure. The third category is physical hazards, foreign objects that can get into food and cause injury. We're talking about glass, metal fragments, plastic pieces, hair, screws, loose brush bristles, or even insects. Unlike biological hazards, physical hazards are often visible, which means your eyes and your awareness are your primary tools for controlling them. Physical hazards can come from people, a hair, or a piece of jewelry. From the building, a flake of paint or a broken light fitting. From equipment, a worn machine part or a cracked storage bin. And from your own cleaning tools, which is why inspecting your equipment before you start is always part of the job. Before you begin any cleaning task, take a moment to check your tools. Are the bristles on your brush secure, or are some loose and ready to fall off? Is the mop handle cracked? Is the scraper blade intact? Worn or damaged tools are a physical hazard in their own right. If you find a tool that's in poor condition, remove it from service and replace it. Don't carry on using it and hope for the best. The same goes for anything unusual you find during cleaning: a nut or bolt on the floor, a loose fitting on a piece of equipment. Don't just sweep it away. Report it to your supervisor so the source can be found and fixed. A missing bolt might be the only warning you get before a machine fails. Here's what separates a cleaning technician from a food safety guardian: a proactive mindset. Because you're moving through the facility, working close to surfaces and equipment, you often see things before anyone else does. Flaking paint on a ceiling, a cracked light cover, a worn seal on a machine. These are potential physical hazards, and when you spot them and report them, you're preventing a contamination incident before it happens. Your cleaning procedures also help directly. Cleaning from the top down moves debris to the floor where it can be safely removed, and a clean-as-you-go approach means foreign material doesn't get tracked around the facility and end up somewhere it shouldn't. Let's bring this module together. For every hazard we've covered, biological, chemical, and physical, the pattern is the same. Your cleaning and sanitation procedures, when followed correctly and consistently, are the primary control measure. Your scrubbing defeats biofilms. Your correct chemical concentration controls pathogens without creating new chemical risks. Your color-coded tools prevent allergen cross-contact. Your observation and reporting prevent physical hazards from becoming contamination events. You're not performing a series of random tasks. You're deploying a carefully designed defense against threats that could seriously harm people. So that's the substance of Module 2. We've gone well beyond the basics and looked closely at the specific enemies you face. The key pathogens like Salmonella, Listeria, and Norovirus, the fortress-like threat of biofilms, the double-edged nature of your own cleaning chemicals, and the physical hazards that your awareness and discipline help prevent. Each type of hazard requires a different approach, but the foundation is always the same: knowledge, procedure, and professionalism. In Module 3, we're going to move from understanding the hazards to mastering the process for defeating them. We'll walk through all 7 steps of cleaning and sanitation in detail, and you'll see exactly how each step targets the hazards we've covered here.